Congress, people that really care about the minutia of technical goings-on inside Congress and how we can make things better in the evolving world. So we're thrilled to be here. My name is Steve Dwyer. I am Senior Advisor from the Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, Mr. Steny Hoyer, is walking down the aisle right now. And I'm very pleased to have been one of the organizers, along with Chris Bien from Leader McCarthy's team, who's been one of my great partners. So thank you, Chris. You'll see Chris a little bit on stage. And so, yeah, this is a great event. I sent out the rough run show a little bit yesterday. We are live streaming for the first time at the hackathon, so there's people online watching. And without further ado, I just want to introduce my boss, who I've worked for a long time, somebody who really cares and dedicated his life to the institution of Congress, and the current Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer. Please come on up here and
Steve leaves his computer up here, so I gotta move it because I work with paper. This big hackathon leader works with paper, what can I tell you? I'm a little hoarse, but I want to welcome all of you here. Steve Dwyer is an extraordinary resource, not only for my office, but for the Congress of the United States, particularly the House of Representatives. Steve has been with me. How many years have you been with me, Steve? 19 years. He can't get rid of me. He keeps hoping maybe I'll go away. I also see Kevin. You want to come and sit down? Sure. Kevin McCarthy, my partner in this event, which for some years from California, the minority leader who believes himself he's going to be the majority leader next year. That's right. My view is limited, I guess. Kevin, but good to be with you. I want to welcome all of you to get to the Capitol for our 4th Congressional Hackathon. It's wonderful to meet in person once again after 2 years of virtual events. Now, in a hackathon forum, we ought not to be too concerned, I suppose, about virtual, because many of us have become experts at virtual communications. And what an amazing technology it has allowed us, notwithstanding the fact we couldn't come together personally, to stay in touch. And on Zoom, I think it's so realistic because you can respond, and assuming somebody didn't put you on mute. I always get upset when the central authority puts me on mute. But you can respond, you see the facial, you see the actions, and it really is the next best thing. But the best thing is in person, but it's a wonderful technology. Your collaboration at this hackathon makes it one of our most important avenues for promoting innovation, modernizing Congress, and making the legislative branch more accessible, transparent, and efficient. That really is the objective, to make our democracy more transparent and more accessible to the American people, whose Congress, of course, it is. Your contributions today will transform the digital operations of Congress for years to come. The event has a history of generating change. This is not just meeting and talking to one another, it is making change and making progress. In 2011, as a result of the first hackathon, Congress opened its databases so that anyone could access information about the members who represent them, as well as the bills, amendments, reports, and votes that impact their district, their state, and their country. As a result of the 2015 hackathon, Congress modernized its committee hearings by creating a central calendar and a repository of video streams, testimony, and documents. Critically, hackathon participants also recommended allowing committee witnesses to testify virtually. There's been some controversy about that, but very frankly, it has facilitated getting witnesses who are not able to travel to Washington, D.C., who may be overseas. You can join them. And I think that's something that we need to keep. We may want to make it more limited, but personally. And there are differences of opinion on that because all of us believe, Mr. McCarthy, myself, the Speaker, all agree that really is no substitute for in-person. But when you can facilitate getting testimony or presence that otherwise is not possible, then I think it's a very, very good alternative. Another major hackathon success was the creation of a new web form for constituents to open casework inquiries. I don't know how many of you have experienced that or understand that, but and use an electronic signature to give consent to the sharing of their information for purposes of federal casework. That personal signature really interrupted the time frame of responding to a constituent's need. Now we can do that in real time. Before this change, whenever a constituent needed a member's help with the federal agency, he or she had to sign the privacy release physically and then scan or fax it back to the member's office. This was a source, I know, of frustration for many, for congressional staff and the general public, and it demonstrated our need to adapt to a digital world. I'm proud that my office was the first to implement this solution and that more than half of the members are using it today. So over 220 members are using it. These events produce a real change, and I'm glad that our hackathons are truly bipartisan. This is not about politics. This is about how we can better serve the American people and how they better can access their representatives and the business of the people of the country. I want to thank my co-host, as I've already done, but I want to do it again, Republican Leader McCarthy. He and I are perceived correctly as advocates of our two positions in our parties, but we also understand that having a Congress that runs effectively, efficiently, transparently, and accessibly is in the best interest of everybody and every American. I want to thank also co-host Steve Dwyer, who's done such a great job. While we come from opposite sides of the aisle, the leader and I, we both want to ensure that Congress continues to adapt and modernize to serve the American people in our digitally connected world. Today, America's talented digital innovators will engage with members, staff, and advocates to generate more brilliant ideas. And you can see how many of your ideas have been adopted and are in use right now. As Majority Leader, I've been proud to help bring the Democratic caucus up to date with the latest technology so we can better deliver results for our constituents. My office oversees an intensive digital training program, the Digital Academy, which has graduated over 150 staff members. We also manage DEMCOM, our caucus's official intranet, which we've expanded to serve Senate Democratic staff as well. The Republicans have a similar capability. With over 10,000 resumes in DEMCOM's resume bank, we are using this tool to promote greater diversity and excellence in our hiring. My office continues to work on improving and updating our popular Dome Watch app. If you don't have our Dome Watch app, Steve Dwyer developed it. I bet some Republicans are using it as well. And obviously, we could use something they've developed to make better access of what information in real time, what's happening now. The 4.0 version that we launched last November added a floor timeline function, as well as committee videos. We also are close to announcing a 2.0 version of our Dome Directory app, which helps users recognize members of Congress. That may be good news, Kevin, and bad news, I'm not sure. My senior advisor, whom I've talked to about a lot, will give you a preview of Dome Directory 2.0 at some point in time today. At our last hackathon in 2017, I recognize Leader McCarthy's partnership in passing the bipartisan Modernizing Government Technology Act, which was successfully enacted into law. 5 years later, the Technology Modernization Fund that law created has received over $1 billion to upgrade legacy executive branch systems to save money, to reduce cyber attacks, and to make them more effective. That is one example of us working across the aisle on these issues. Another major example since our last hackathon is the great work of the Select Committee on Modernization. given serious attention to the operations of Congress. It has given serious attention to the operations of Congress, including our use of technology. I want to commend Derek Kilmer and the ranking member who worked together collaboratively. Timmons, Congressman Timmons, who worked together in a I've met with both of them. I know Kevin has done that as well. And it really was a display of how we can work together to improve our lives, our constituents' access, and the product. I understand all of you will receive an update from the Select Committee later in this program. Every change we consider, either through the Modernization Committee or here at the Hackathon, is intended, as I've said over and over, to help Congress become more accessible and more transparent. New technologies offer an unprecedented window into the internal workings of Congress and help transform the legislative process by bringing more Americans inside the room. I don't know how many of you have seen Hamilton. Remember he says, I want to be in the room where it's happening. I want to be in the room where it's happening. What this technology does is allow every citizen to be in the room, not physically, but virtually in the room where it's happening. I am glad that Leader McCarthy and I are working together to drive this transformation in a bipartisan basis. Once again, I join and welcome you to the Capitol. I look forward to hearing your ideas on how to improve this great institution. We call it the People's House. Very frankly, the Senate was set up as the representatives of the states, representatives of the state legislature. And I know they weren't elected now, but the founders set up a house to be the people's house, the people's voice, to listen to them. And every 2 years, have to go back to them and say, this is what I've done. Do you want me to keep doing it? Do you have new ideas? Where should we go as a country? The People's House. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my very dear friend and colleague with whom I agree a lot, disagree a lot of times, but who agrees with me that making this institution better is a joint responsibility and opportunity for the leaders of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The gentleman from California, Kevin McCarthy.
I do want to thank Steny. Regardless of what people see on the outside, Steny and I are actually close personal friends. We can disagree and not be disagreeable. The rest of the nation should look at that as well. One place that we should firmly agree upon is right here. We've been doing this for quite a few years. Steny talked about a lot of things, but I want to put it just in perspective. Technology does so many good things. It's a disruptor. It brings, no matter what, more efficiency, more accountability to data, but it provides greater service to people, and it gives them freedom. But there's also vulnerabilities with it that we see. What the hackathon should do is look at both of those. Are there vulnerabilities to our government? Help us solve those, and we don't think that. But also, from a standpoint, somebody shouldn't have to come to Washington to deal with an agency. Let me give you one example, which frustrates me. I first came, everybody wants to make sure we treat our veterans right. I get here and I hear about veterans that can't get an appointment to the VA, to their local VA. They have to call by the phone. And I said, watch somebody take a nap, get an Uber, rate the driver rates them. Why couldn't we just create an app for that? Make an appointment. There's all my medical records. I can rate my doctor. We can grab that data. Government collects so much data too, but they make it so hard for the public to find it. What if we made it a one-stop place where people could find all the data they want? What if we made it just like the e-signature? So if you understood that, if you're a member of Congress and a constituent calls you, they're in a panic because they've tried everything else, but they come to you finally. Maybe it's the IRS or something else. You know what we tell them? Can you come down to the office and sign a form so I can call on your behalf? I live an hour away. Okay, I'll drop it in the mail today. You get it, fill it out, send it back to me, and when I get it, I'll call that week later. But at the same time, there's a knock at the door and they've got a package from UPS and they sign for it. I mean, we shouldn't be behind, we should be leading in that nature. And that's what I look to the hackathon to do. You can make us more accountable, but you can make us more accessible. And it doesn't have to go along any party lines. This is our government, of the people, by the people. But how do we provide and break through and get that all down? Because government is usually the last thing to reform. Anything in the private sector is going to have to adapt and reform earlier. I mean, when you think about it, think about how big and powerful Amazon is. But Amazon started just selling books. They're going to mail it to you. They're competing with the bookstore. But Amazon now can sell you, get you anything, right? From groceries on in, and they get you sometimes in 24 hours. You never leave, and it lets you look at different prices. But you know what could have been Amazon, which was what I would say the government was Sears and Roebuck. They had all these locations. They sold you from a house to pants. They had catalogs that went everywhere, but they just didn't keep up in time. We should have that same thought. How can we constantly improve? But at the same time you're improving us, look for the vulnerabilities. Because if we're a government of the people, by the people, it's a threat. And we have openings. Now, the one other thing I want to do, we've done a lot of great successes here. We want to continue to build this. We want to continue to go. If you are into NFTs, we have one here. We keep going. It's going to come here in a minute. Let's see on the side there. Number 2. Oh, do I need to do it here? All right. All you have to do, if you have a wallet, email us at nft@mail.house.gov and we'll send you one. This won't be the very first NFT for Congress. I already did that one with a ticket right here. But you want to be on the forefront, do you not? It will be the first hackathon NFT. You go through, we all sit back later in life and say where we were at this moment in time. How did we All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool.
Thank you very much, Leader McCarthy. So without further ado, we're going to keep on going. We have 2 real quick sort of keynotes in addition to our host speaking.